our first bits of insight here as the picks and picks, essentially, will kick off. Big picking first, Grenadi deciding what to go for. Now, their first pick against VP Neon last time did not exactly go to plan. It actually ended up being the only map they lost was their first pick. Whereas they did win the map on China, so... Well, they won the entire match, and Massa set world record yesterday.
Yeah, and set the world record was we were focusing on Granadi's fight against Pussy Topaco for the benefit of third place, as a matter of fact, trying to enforce a draw. And yeah, it kind of stunned us on the caster booth once we were witnessing that battle unfold, as we do see USA and Greece picked up by both the Gen.GxWeibo players, and it will be Brazil on map 4, meaning France will be the decider.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember exactly how it went against VP Neon, as that is our only point of reference for Big in particular, but they did manage to beat VP Neon on Brazil, actually, and that is supposed to be kind of VP Neon's almost trump card.
The map that they lost against VP Neon was USA.
It was USA, yeah, okay, so not a surprising pick then for Gen.GxWeibo to go and pick a map that Big was struggling on. So I think picks and bans making a lot of sense this time. We're not really left scratching our head wondering why teams have done this. I'll have to see whether it all actually works out for them, and whether they do follow the script, or whether we get something like last time, when no one seemed to win their own map pick at all.
Yeah, where we do get picks getting traded, and we've seen that actually more than once over the course of yesterday's action, which was a bit of an uncommon occurrence compared to what we've seen, where everybody either wins their map picks or it's a straight stomp and somebody else wins the other map picks anyway, but not trading them back and forth. That's really the trend that we saw kind of like poke its head in the matches that we saw yesterday, as we're going to be moving on to China. The warm-up is underway. We'll be ending in about 35 seconds. Massa, the world record holder, as you said, with a 104.946, the only driver to go where no other driver has ever gone before, below the 65s. And now, in terms of prediction, what do you think will be the final outcome?
I mean, Big did impress me yesterday, especially coming in having not played these maps kind of in competition for far longer than anyone else. They looked pretty good against VP Neon. A bit shaky on USA, but after that point, they really just seemed to dial in and get better and better as the match went on. So I'm going to back Big for this one.
I'm thinking I'm going to back Big purely on the fact that, yeah, a bit of an X factor will be the Gen.GxWeibo duo as the match starts right now. But Wosal and Heath can be pretty potent if they are able to lock in directly. And we'll see if they're able to lock in right from the gates as we go into the first round. But as I say that, we do see Heath with a bit of a clip into turn number 1. Everybody else going for the bug slide. And it will be Granadi emerging in the lead by 3/10 as Wosal and Massa had trouble at the exit.
Yeah, that is not the start that he would have been looking for. Massa, although a bit behind, is still very much within kind of touching distance of Wosile. Gap only a couple attempts at this stage. We head through the ice. And no one seems to really be switching positions. Looks like Massa lost a bit more time. They're dropping a few attempts further back now. So everyone kind of holding position for the time being. Big gaps between all the players relative to the skill level in Div 1, where 0.2 of a second is quite a big gap. But advantage Big.
Advantage to Big so far, and the gap's currently pretty consequential in favor of Granadi, currently holding by less than half a second ahead of Wosal, who has his hands full battling against Massa, who's still a little bit further behind compared to where he would like to be in the battle for second place. Will Wosal be able to snipe him at the finish line? The answer is a yes, with a bit more speed through that finalized turnaround. It will be Granadi taking the individual win with a 0.704 to kick things off, and with Massa in third, it will be the victory, and Big taking the lead in their first map pick 2-1.
Yep, they'll take that as a first round, especially considering that Massa did make a mistake. So we'll see how the players get on through the bug slide, through a bit of a dice roll section, and everyone seems to get it quite well. Wosal coming off worse, but still only a couple of attempts behind. Well, the two big players are up in that front pack, of course. We know how much pace they have. Yesterday, Massa took the world record from Grenadi, so I don't think it's a surprise to see China coming out early for these two.
Yeah,
because they seem to be able to navigate around it safely, and they have enough pace to beat, well, anyone.
Yeah, and Heath getting a really solid entry into that Convex platform before checkpoint 7 will be taking the lead away from Massa, looking to be on a pretty solid time as well. Maybe not in the 104s, but at least a 105 low compared to what we saw a little bit earlier on, which was a 105 mid to 105 high. Granadi and Massa trying to tandem this together as Heath actually slides out a bit too far and will be clipping the wall into the chicane and promote Granadi and Massa into first and second, and thus hand this ace on a silver plate for the big boys as Granadi Granati will be emerging ahead of his teammate by about a tenth at the finish line, and it will be a .483 at the stripe for Granati. Massa into the .6s, Wosal and Heave. A bit of a missed opportunity there for Heave, who just was a bit overzealous, I guess, at the drop down after checkpoint 8's dirt part.
I feel like on this map where Big have so much pace, it's, Gen.GxWeibo need to be taking every single opportunity they get, and currently they are taking every opportunity they can to drive into a wall. Unfortunately, that is a tremendously poor start for Gen.GxWeibo here on China. And there's not really anything to say about this round. Granati and Massa can just go off into the sunset. They've got 3 seconds to spare. It's a map that I think is easier to safe than a lot of them. The Identity, one of the most consistent if you just want to get around it. So this should be another ace going away at Big, and I think already a very intimidating scoreline for Gen.GxWeibo to fight back against.
Yeah, and Gen.GxWeibo, they also cannot afford really to take that match too lightly, because they are locked in the battle for 4th position, which is the last place for the playoffs, and they are locked in that battle against the likes of VP Neon and Team Cook as well, so they have to make sure that they start this match on the right foot and take the match as a very, very solid benchmark to try and actually surpass in their case, because, yeah, that first map is completely going out of their control. It will be Granati taking the round win with a .227, a very stout time at that. Wosal in 3rd, Heave in 4th. It will be back-to-back aces for Big, and they are on map point attempt number 1, looking to make this first map a 4-round deal.
Big have set their own bar a little bit too high here. I'm no longer impressed by a .2. Yeah, it's fine, Massa did a .9 yesterday. Yeah, their performance on China, it's not a map I would ever want to pick against them, or ever really have to play against them in any kind of capacity if I was any of these Div 1 teams, because their pace seems so high, and I don't think they've really... I mean, Massa lost a bit of time on round 1, but aside from that, it's been smooth sailing for Big all the way here. Gen.GxWeibo, at least in the fight this time, though, but they're dropping behind and letting Big back into ace formation.
Yeah, but Heave is still very much within touching distance, trying to uphold the individual honor, and Wosal is not that far away as well. Even though he's currently 2 tenths down as a result of the slow entry to checkpoint 8, Massa will be clipping the wall at the top of the dirt and thus promotes Wosal up into 3rd place, and will potentially allow Gen.GxWeibo to extract one more round here on this opening map as Granati continues to lock horns with Heave behind him by about a tenth of a second after the first ice turnaround. Second ice turnaround will still be Granati taking the win. Wosal versus Massa. Wosal going very close to the wall on the inside. Granati with a .320 and Heave with a .466 will make it 1-2, and it will be the draw at the end of this round. And it kind of kicked off right there when we saw Massa briefly hit the wall, thus promoting Wosal up into 3rd.
Yeah, I would say costly mistake from Massa if it was in fact that the scoreline is still 9-2 and Wosal's just crashed, so that is going to be the map done basically. Yeah, Heave has gone to Gen.GxWeibo. There's been some rounds where they've looked somewhat close on pace, certainly not equal on pace, definitely not faster, but they're crashing more than Big. I mean,
slide out.
No one having any interest in finishing this round, it would seem. But yeah, I think Big have just looked so much stronger here. Their consistency has waned a little bit on these 2 rounds, I think, particularly from Massa. I mean, Granati actually, draw attention to that, 4 rounds, 100% win rate, and it's looking likely that'll be 5.
Yeah, it's looking very likely to be 5, as he takes also a bit of advantage of his teammates' own demise midway through the ice slide at checkpoint 4 where he slid out, he forced to respawn, and that's going to be all she wrote for Gen.GxWeibo. Wosal down in 2nd place, kind of stuck in no man's land, currently 1.2 seconds down on Granati and some 6 to 7 tenths ahead of Massa, as we see Granati clock in a 106. .023. If it was a 105, maybe we would have been impressed with that, but no, just a little bit of a lifting off the throttle, maybe a bit more attrition in that round, contributed to the times being a little bit on the downtrend in that final round, but still, Big 11-3 at the end of this opening map, and Granati just absolutely undefeated, as you said, 100% win rate that will hold throughout the entirety of this opening map, and we now go into the first Gen.GxWeibo pick, which is USA, a map that Big have lost on a 7-10 scoreline against VP Neon last time out.
Yeah, I mean, they clearly had some confidence before the match because they immediately picked into it, but it didn't go well last time. I think they were struggling. I think it was mainly consistency, if I remember correctly, but it's going to be interesting to see whether they perhaps put a little bit more time into it, kind of in the break between the match yesterday and today, because obviously they have so many matches to play today that they can't really have a shaky map in their pool. They're going to play every single map and they're going to play it each of them numerous times over the course of the day. So they might look a little better today. I hope for their own sake, considering some of their other opponents that they're going to be facing as well today, but they do. But I'm not surprised to see Gen.GxWeibo pick into it if they think this is potentially a bit of a bogey map for the big players.
Yeah, and just looking at the PB, like the theoretical PBs that we can see, Wosal and Granadi on a pretty even footing. 0.472 for Wosal, 0.479 for Granadi. And Wosal does have a little bit of history with success on this map because he won actually the Elite Cup which was played on this, which was back in February the 28th. He won on the final round against Bren as Bren went a bit too wide into checkpoint 5 and barely brushed the wall, but that was just enough to trigger the acceleration penalty at that time. And then Wosal was a bit more in cruise mode, just kind of taking his time with the round and bringing the car home for that Elite Cup victory, which did him some great deal of pressure relieving early on into the Elite Cup season. But now we go on to map 2 here on Overdrive, and already a big mistake from Granadi, clipping before the bobsleigh of checkpoint number 2. As we go into the wall jump and the quarter pipe, it will be Granadi respawning before that, and the top 3 in the meantime make it through pretty clean.
Well, that 100% win rate is most certainly over. I'm not even sure it's going to be a 100% finishing rate by the time this round is done. But this is now all the pressure onto Massa to try and at least salvage a draw and, well, most importantly, block an ace coming out from Gen.GxWeibo. Something that looks like it could get easier as Heave goes quite offline there. It's going to drop a few temps back, so Massa into a fairly confident first position, 2 temps gap. It's just a case of not messing up the identity here. I think he should have enough pace. Just needs to not go flying off, something that Wosal demonstrates, unfortunately, for the Frenchman.
Well,
So
Wosal did manage
in first.
Yeah, sorry to interject that, but yeah, just take a look at the save from Wosal a little bit, as we might have caught it this one a little bit early. I don't know if we're going to see the full action, as Granadi will reach the finish line meantime, but goes in a bit too tight, will be clipping the helper, doesn't go flying, but manages to have the presence of mind to kind of lift off the throttle, go on the brakes, and just keep the car on the road, saving it, and thus enabling his team to, well, with the gap that was with Granadi, the draw would have been enforced either way, but making the gap a little bit less than it could have been if he had fallen into the water.
Yeah, I guess, and it is important because it did allow them to hold on to a draw. I still think with Respawn they would have been fine against Granadi. Granadi's so far back.
Probably, but still.
The quarter pipe a few times, but hey, it's nice to be able to salvage a run a little bit more, save a few seconds.
As we go into checkpoint number 4, we go into the second sector. Wosal and Granadi going side by side. Granadi going a bit more towards the wall before the jump, accumulating as much speed as he can as we go onto the dirt flick. Are there going to be any slide outs? Yeah, actually, Massa clobbering the side of the breeze block, and he will be leaving his teammate high and dry to prevent Gen.GxWeibo from taking the lead.
Yeah, that puts Granadi in a slightly vulnerable position here. It's going to have to try and salvage a draw for big if they can. And it looks like it's going pretty well for Granadi. Wosal with a good ending here. It's not quite going to sneak past. Look like they got a little clip or a slowdown or something. But Granadi inches past by a tenth of a second. And we get another draw.
Yeah, another draw, and I'd say this is the case of the All Reliable. You were able to see that on screen, just a clip from the right front on the side of the plastic road, which was enough to slow down Wosal and allow Granadi to move over into the lead and take the win and enforce the second draw in a row here on USA. Going on to round number 3, going with the perspective of Wosal at the tail end of the field, battling with Granadi for third before the quarter pipe jump. Everybody clearing it nice and easy. Massa just wiggling a little bit as the tires are still coming back up to temperature after he exits the bobsleigh and into the quarter pipe. He will be at the bottom of the leading group, and we do see a very big mistake from Granadi brushing the wall in checkpoint number 5, and now it's up to Massa to try and enforce the third draw in a row, but right now it's looking a bit grim.
Yeah, this is a very important round for Gen.GxWeibo. They've had opportunities in the first 2 rounds to try and do some damage against Big, but haven't been able to actually secure anything more than a draw. This time, they were leading 1 and 2. That switches down to 1 and 3. Pressure on Wosal here, who obviously made a mistake for round 1. Doesn't repeat it this time. Looks to be holding on to first. Can Heave try and push for second? I don't quite think so. Oh, Wosal lucky to make it across the line. That was a bit of a slip and slide at the end, but it is a round victory for Gen.GxWeibo. They will take the lead of this map.
They will be taking the lead on their own map pick here on a 4-3 score. And Wosal, yeah, getting a bit of a lucky escape again on that plastic. Well, getting a lucky escape at last on that plastic part because, of course, in the previous round, Granati took advantage of a big slowdown from Wosal to take the lead and thus enforce the draw and thus deny the victory on round number 2. But now this has been solved for the red side. They are leading 4 points now into USA, going into the quarter pipe here on round number 4. Everybody clearing it nice and clean. A bit more of a height difference for Massa and for Heave, looking to be a bit more conservative in that quarter pipe, just focusing on making it through as smooth as can be, and that is going to be relegating them down to 3rd and 4th, with Heave currently holding that 3rd place as Wosal and Granati are duking it out up front as we go on to the jump into the checkpoint 6. Long winding right-hander and the dirt flick, and he slide outs, no, but we go a bit wide on the part of Wosal to avoid the breeze block, and Granati thus takes advantage of that to move into the lead.
Yeah, and Granati looking to increase the lead. Oh, Heave goes into the wall, could let Massa catch up potentially. That's only about a 10th of a second. So we've got a pair of 1v1s unfolding here. Wosal versus Granati looking super tight at the top. Oh, and Wosal falls off.
Massa,
as does Massa. Wosal gets past as Massa is trying to unclip that back left wheel.
And Massa falls victim to the gatepost once again. I thought, or maybe he becomes the newest member of the victims of the gatepost club at the finish on USA, joining the likes of illustrious names like Banks and Napos and so on and so forth. As we go on to the next round, it will be, of course, Gen.GxWeibo leading here by 1 point, hanging into round number 5, going into the quarter pipe once again. Granati going a bit low, does avoid any cliffs to be dealt with him, and everybody clearing it nice and clean. As I say that, though, before the drop down of checkpoint number 4, we did have a slight wall brush on the part of Heave, it seemed like, which will be relegating him down to last place, 1.3 seconds down.
Yeah, that is not what Gen.GxWeibo really need. They've been denied so many points by Big just managing to scrape a player in first almost every single round. And now they're in quite a vulnerable position, so pressure onto Wosal has to try and limit this to a draw if they want to continue leading this map. Something that Wosal might be able to do is Granati versus Wosal heading into this final section. Granati gets it clean, Wosal flips off. Oh, we're gonna need to set up a support group for these players.
Yeah, I think we might need definitely need a bit of an intervention with the players that have. If you or a teammate of yours have fallen victim to the gatepost of the finish in USA, please call this number or type a message in the chat to actually seek potential mental support, because we value the players' sanity here over on Overdrive. In the meantime, it will be Big with the ace, completely flipping the script on its head and potentially looking at picking away the first map pick of Gen.GxWeibo, 7-5. They are map point number 2, attempt number 1. Onto the corner pipe once again we go. It will be Wosal at the tail end, but Massa wiggling again at the landing, will be falling back down to 4th before the end of Sector 1.
Yeah, I think Wosal and Heave really need to get a win on the board, or an ace ideally, if they want to be able to hold on to this map. Getting ace there was the exact opposite of what they needed. They have looked far more competitive on this map compared to China, but given we know this is not a map where Big have looked as strong, certainly they didn't yesterday, they're not really looking at their best today despite leading it. If they don't win this one, I'm worried how many more opportunities Gen.GxWeibo are going to have, and for now, Granati leading the way. Heave in a position to at least deny them winning the map overall, but it's going to put them on a 9-6 scoreline. Oh, I thought we were going to lose a couple more to that left-hand side.
Yeah, and those would have been the 2 leaders, which would have done Massa a good deal of good to his particular stats account. You can see currently at the bottom left, we're still early on in the game, of course. 9% top ones, 9% crashes. Kind of playing the format more than anything else for Massa, as we do see... Wosal, tap 1? What just happened there? Seemed to have gone on straight.
DC.
Yeah, looked like a keyboard disconnect or something, or maybe a keyboard not registering an input correctly. That is very, very strange, but that will be confirming the second map going the way of Big, more than likely, unless there is a fumble by Granati at the identity and he doesn't get the finish trigger like his teammate had a bit earlier on. But looking at the gaps and looking at how consistent he's been so far, this is a far unlikely scenario. He needs to actually chump up the bit there.
Yeah, I mean, they just need one player to cross the line top 2. I don't think there's a way that Gen.GxWeibo get back into this without a bit of a miracle. I mean, that could be the start of one, but I don't think it's going to be 6 seconds of time loss. Okay, well, Massa should be able to hold on to second at least. Safe calls should be in his ear. As there we have it. Big, I don't feel they looked good on that track, but in a lot of key rounds, they were able to, just scrape one player into first place and deny Gen.GxWeibo getting victories or aces, and they just managed to pick up more points despite, I think, not looking anywhere near as strong as they did on China in comparison.
Yeah, I think this map goes in the list that I like to call, it's not pretty, but it gets the job done, really. That's the motto of USA for Big here, as they are able to get that map win out of the hands of Gen.GxWeibo. As we move on to the second Gen.GxWeibo pick, where they will need to pick up the pace, it will be Greece. I'm kind of curious to see what's going to be cooking up in here, because as we've alluded to earlier on when Big played against VP on yesterday, Granadi's identity on Greece is among the best in class that we've seen so far throughout the entire life cycle of this map, and I'm looking forward to see if that kind of rears its ugly head again for Gen.GxWeibo, and Granadi could be one to surpass. And Granadi having a match, even though it's an early match, he definitely starts off on the right foot. You can see, of course, with the stats at the bottom left-hand side of the screen, only 16% of crashes and 3/4 of the rounds have been won by him, a 75% win rate over the course of the first two maps is definitely a good stat to have around when you're starting a 6-game streak.
Yeah, and hey, when you've got that many matches in a row, wrapping stuff up quickly as well, just beneficial from the point of view of giving you a break. You don't want to be playing, hour-long matches back to back. If you can wrap them up in 3, that would be very beneficial, just giving you a little bit of downtime.
Yeah, indeed, and it's very different, as we said, compared to the situation that they faced in the Beacon Duo League last year, where they played 4 games in a row. Here, all the maps had to be played for the map scores to be used. Here, it's true best of 3, so if you make it a 3-0 deal, you got a bit of respite in between games, a bit more respite than if you were finishing in 3-2, which might be something that will be on the card with our next opponent, which will be Pack B, coming up at 2 p.m. CEST. Make sure to stick with us for that. In the meantime, it will be Map 3 underway. Greece, as we see Heave going full inside on that double right-hander before checkpoint 4. He will not have as much speed as the rest of the field, though, going into the ice, and he will be languishing at the bottom at the end of Sector 1, and Granadi takes over the lead. Massa and Wosal duking it out for second place.
Yeah, that is not the start of this map, but Gen.GxWeibo needed. Of course, it is now, well, every map is now a must-win map for them when you're 2-0 down in the overall match scoreline. Wosal trying to hold on second, Massive carrying more speed, though, so Big certainly threatening an 8 here, and is that a clip on the inside wall from Wosal? Certainly looked like it. That is going to drop them at least a half second to a second behind. Heave having to respawn to that, utterly out of it. Granadi and Massa just need to make it through the identity unscathed, and it'll be an ace to kick off Greece. And
right now, Granadi looks to actually go wire to wire and go from A to B, basically, in terms of getting to the finish line, and he will do so with a .442, still with very decent times to kick things off. Massa on a .645. Wosal will reach the finish line 2 seconds down, and Heave, well, he's going to be taking a few wall hits here and there, trying to bang his head and trying to get his ideas and his mind straightened out, because they cannot afford to lose any more rounds at this point. In this stage of the game, we're kind of at the point of no return, even though on this map it's still early days. In the match itself, though, it's looking very far gone at this point.
Yeah, it's... Oh, they really just need something to go their way. Gen.GxWeibo, Gen.GxWeibo even. It's just the consistency hasn't been there. I think from either player, I think there's been plenty of mistakes in both, and their pace isn't fast enough to be able to get away with it that way either. This time it's Wosal falling behind early on. Heave looking better than last round.
Oh!
But still behind. Getting into kind of a top pack, but might be able to... Oh, no. Oh, okay. Yeah, this is looking very good for Big here. They're just able to navigate the track safely and on a strong pace, and that will be enough in most of these matches, to be honest. Just the difficulty of these maps is high enough that just being able to get both cars across the line safely is massive.
Yeah, again, just like we said last round, the most important thing for them is to go from A to B, and they just did it in the previous round. They're looking to do it in this opening round, as we do see the ghost of Wosal come back up, and Massa getting a very hefty clip there on the way to the identity, so it will not be the ace, but the draw. Let's take a look at that again.
Yeah, that's painful for Massa.
That's a clip,
such
like
a tiny
right
clip.
There. Oh, yeah. Dude.
Pixels in it. That is a painful one. And it does at least give Gen.GxWeibo a glimmer of hope in this match, because I think if it was a 6-0 scoreline, there's not really a look in there, at least limiting the gaps only remaining at 3 points. They have a slender chance. Massa potentially falling behind here as well. Does kind of rescue the bad line. Is going to be a few attempts back, but
yeah, he was
honestly,
forced to lift.
I thought that could have been worse.
That could have been worse. He was forced to lift midway through the ice slide. You could have seen that, but yeah, just a little bit. That was a bit of a hot moment. Massa saves it. He will still be keeping tabs on Heave a bit further ahead, and meanwhile, Granati currently getting a little bit overhauled by Wosal. Wosal currently shadowing him by about 600ths of a second, and now 23 milliseconds going into checkpoint 11. We're focusing on the battle for the lead as Wosal tried to do the same thing that he did in Birmingham, trying to go full outside and get away without brushing the wall. He did not get away with it this time and clobbers the side of the wall in checkpoint 14 as well. So Massa gets promoted up to third. Heave in second. Massa will be likely, well, he will be dropping down to fourth. I thought he was going to be respawning, but oh man, he's making me a liar not once but twice. Massa there managing to get from A to B despite everything that just happened. Wosal will be coming into third. Let's just take a look at that again, shall we? Just take a look at the ghost of Wosal as he goes closer and closer to the wall, and then just a slight wall brush with the side wall, and the acceleration penalty was triggered just with that small touch, allowing Granati to take the lead perennially.
Yeah, that was costly from Wosal there, but at least they were able to salvage a draw after Massa's mistake. It was quite surprising Massa made it down without respawning. I thought it was going to be a respawn for sure, but in the end, the battle against the respawn button didn't really matter too much because it was going to be fourth place either way with the amount of time lost. Granati, though, I feel like we've barely spoken about him. It's a bit like the Max Verstappen effect, where you have those seasons where he just drive off into the distance and there's nothing to say. Because Granati has just looked so good on Greece so far. Wosal and Heave have made a few mistakes, but look decent. Massa's been struggling a little bit. But if Granati just has first place on lock, then there's just nothing Gen.GxWeibo can do here.
Yep, and it seems as though, yeah, Granati is very much still controlling the first place and having it under lock and key. He's had that since pretty much the start of the match. Like China just proved it. It was just USA where he kind of felt a little bit of a reduction in that particular rhythm of keeping those first places, and he might actually fall for one of the rare times here in this match and falling foul of the identity, as he will be leaving Heave and Wosal first and second. They deal the counter ace that was so sorely needed of them to keep their head above water at least for a couple of rounds. Granati continuously respawning means that he will not reach the finish line either.
I think Granati's just practicing the identity at that stage, to be perfectly honest. You might as well. It doesn't really matter if you cross the line fourth or not. So, yeah, big moment there for Gen.GxWeibo. A mistake from Granati, very uncharacteristic based off this map and this match as a whole. And Gen.GxWeibo there to capitalize. It really feels like the first time they've actually been able to properly capitalize on a mistake from over the course of this entire match. There's been so many opportunities for victories and aces that they just missed out on. This time they finally picked up. Level up the scoreline 5-5, but they're still going to need more than that if they want to win the match. Granati and Massa looking on decent pace this round.
Yeah, Wosal was getting close to hitting the wall before checkpoint 5, though. That's why I kind of took a bit of an ingress of air through my lips as I was witnessing Wosal try to get away with it. He did get away with it, thankfully for him, as he currently is locking horns with Massa for the benefit of second position, trying to deny the ace for Big and prevent them from moving on to a 3-point lead again. As we go into checkpoint 11, it will be Granati and Wosal side by side almost. Massa in third. This time Wosal's learned their lesson from a couple of rounds ago. Doesn't go full outside early on, as he wants to avoid risking grazing the wall. As we go into the identity, it will be Granati and Wosal first and second. From the perspective of the Frenchman from Gen.G, he will actually go toe-to-toe with Granati, giving him a run for his money, but Granati still holds on to the lead and will keep his iron grip onto that particular first place as well. This was a solid race by all accounts between the two, separated by 74 milliseconds, and Big will be on match point attempt number 1. Gen.GxWeibo just 1 point behind.
That was a very quick round as well. 0.3 winning time. I mean, Wosal not getting a win with a 0.4 is not what we usually see here on Greece. But indeed, this is map point. This is match point for Big. An ace here, and it'll be all over for Gen.GxWeibo. But I really do feel like Gen.GxWeibo have a chance on this map. They just can't afford any mistakes. They have capitalized on every error coming out from Massa and Granati. Heave getting the best exit out of that ice section. Temporarily almost dips nose into first place, but Is it going to hold there? Massa falls off entirely, so Gen.GxWeibo do have a real opportunity to capitalize here. A mistake from Granati could put Big in a very vulnerable position here, but for now, the experienced German player is holding on to that first place.
Although it's fair to say that Massa did say, I think it was either on one of his socials, don't remember which one, he likes to go to Greece on vacation, doesn't really seem to like driving on Greece in the map pack on Trackmania. And right now it seems to be a bit of a case in point there on this round as he fell off by the wayside, forced to double respawn. But Granati, his teammate, is there to hold the fort for Big. Let's see if he's able to make it through the identity cleanly. He will not be able to do so, and will leave his teammate all on his own to battle against Granati, but the battle will never be on to begin with. A 0.444 for Granati will see him lock that first place once again and enforce the draw. Gen.GxWeibo will be on map point attempt number 1 of the entire series. They were not able to get to that point, neither on China nor USA, despite their best efforts. And now we are very much in the point of no return.
Yeah, I mean, you only could... Yeah, it might not end this round, but it very much might. It could be the end of the match, even if it is a victory or better for Big. I think Granati usually has looked unlocked in first. Massa struggling with consistency on this map, hasn't really had a good time here on Greece. Even Wozile as well. They have been a bit cleaner the last 2 rounds, you'd have to say. I mean, Heave making a mistake on the identity in the previous round, not exactly following that point, but it is currently Massa leaving. Oh, Heave, you were miles off there. That was so far to the right-hand side. And that does put Big not only into a victory position, but into an ace formation that would win them the match if the 2 players can just navigate the rest of the track correctly.
Well, to be fair, we kind of like maybe expected Big to be showing very well, and Gen.GxWeibo just were never really in it to win it, or even trying to make it interesting. It seems as though they were not in the right mindset to begin with, as we do see Wosal with a good penalty grass section before the identity, and Massa with a lot of trouble into that identity as well, forced to respawn, but Wosal clipping as well, and that will be Granati taking the win. Massa, where is he? Massa is still navigating the identity. It will be the draw at the end of that run as he was able to take advantage of the respawn from Massa, who still had a lot of trouble even after that respawn to navigate the Tetraminos at the end of that track. 9-8, and Gen.GxWeibo could potentially force this thing into overtime if they play their cards right.
Yeah, I mean, this is a bit of an all or nothing round here for Gen.GxWeibo. They have to get a player in front of Granati. They've struggled to do that over the duration of this map. I think it's only happened perhaps once when Granati crashed, but both teams under pressure here. Match point for Big, track point for Gen.GxWeibo to give them a hope of extending this match further. Massa getting very offline there. That is going to put the German in, kind of relegating down to 4th place here. Granati and Wozile, definitely the 2 players who look strongest here. Running away on Greece here, on what could well be the final round, unless Wozile can get past Granati.
Yeah, it all hinges on Wosal right now. The man from Gen.G currently trying to chase down the wheelman from Berlin International Gaming. The gap winding back down to 3 milliseconds before checkpoint 11 in the attack of the dirt. Wosal trying to pull a bit more of an outside wall, but it will be Granati going a bit more committed to that outside wall, actually. And will still go side by side with the Frenchman from Gen.G. Wosal continuing to try to pile on the pressure on Granati as we go into the identity, but he will be the one clipping, and that might be all she wrote here on this particular matchup as Massa battles for 2nd place with Heave. It will be 3rd place for Massa in the end, and the win of the map going the way of Big, 11-9, and the overall match win 3-0 for Big, who start off on the right foot. Their 6-game-long marathon that awaits them throughout the entire day, and yeah, strong showing, all things considered, and yeah, Granati just continuing to prove, being that he was become more the frontman of Big in the last few events that he took part of, and that sentiment continues to grow even more validated as time passes on.
I mean, that was a 78% win rate, according to stats in the bottom left of that last round for Granati, and there was even one more win to add into that. So, yeah, by far the strongest looking player in that match, and did more than enough to be able to take Big to a 3-0 victory. I think Gen.GxWeibo, like, you could sit down and you go, oh, they could have won this round. There could have been an ace here. All of these kind of could have, would have, should have. But realistically, I think Granati in particular just had way too much. And just constant wins, so few mistakes. I don't think they really had a look in.
Yeah, and plus, like, Big were tipped as very heavy favorites in the overall first split in Division 1 here. We were not able to see that until today because of how scheduling has worked out for them, but if they're able to maintain that sort of consistency throughout the entire day, then they're going to be a very tough proposition, even against the likes of Pack B, which are going to be coming up next. With that said, I think we can already give you a little bit of a gander at the standings after that game has just played. A 3-0 victory for Big. We'll see them make a meteoric rise up the leaderboard. There you go. They move up to 6th as a result of that game. 6-1 in terms of map points, so a +5 game diff for them will actually be doing them a lot of good service. And Cook currently still sitting in the top 5 as Gen.GxWeibo is kind of locked in 4th and are just 1 map plus ahead of Cook. I was going to say both having won 9 maps, but 12 map losses for Gen.GxWeibo, 13 for Team Cook, and Team Cook are going to be coming up very soon in the list of matches that Big has to play. Will be at 5 p.m. CST, as you can see in exclamation mark schedule in the chat. And AG Global and Pack B, well, Pack B, they're going to face them up next, but of course AG Global, that's another matchup that is yet to be scheduled in between these two teams, but it will likely be another stout match to watch as well.
Yeah, I think we can now start to get an impression of how far up the table Big will be looking after those first 2 games against 2 opponents who are towards top end of the table, and they've been able to win both fairly competently. So they'll be looking towards Pack B, towards AG, and trying to see if they can beat them. And I mean, arguably one of the most important matches of the entire league phase is going to be the next one. Only 2 teams remain undefeated, and obviously in a format where everyone plays everyone, if you go undefeated the whole season, you're guaranteed to win it. So, yeah, Big versus Pack B, this match could be very, very decisive for the overall league.
A match very much it will very much be a match that is decisive for the overall league, and that's going to be the match coming up next. And I'd say, like, if we were to do an early prediction about how far Big would actually get through to the end of the season, I'm thinking it might be top 3 confirmed, but I'm thinking even top 2. In terms of how everything will settle. It will very much depend on how the matches against Pack B and AG Global will go, but they are a solid contender for the top 3. The lead, I have to wait and see maybe a couple more matches to see if they're a solid contender for number 1 spot, but at least top 3, like they're a playoff lock-in for sure, at least in my books.
I think, in my opinion, if they beat Pack B here, then I would put them as almost favorites to top the table.
Okay.
If they lose to Pack B, then I'd say top 3 is still very, very likely. I would struggle to pick between them and All Gamers.
Okay, that's
who will start in second if Pack B do pick up the win here.
All right, well, that's a fair assessment, and I guess I'm a bit more critical of, and maybe a bit more wait to see what happens in terms of being able to predict what's going to happen. But I guess the only way to find out is to stick with us, as we will be returning, of course, in a few moments. It will be at 2 p.m. Central European Summer Time. Granadi and Massa versus Carl Jr. and Pack. Another stout matchup coming your way right out of the gates. I hope you were up bright and early as well, just like we are in Trackmania Esports, because the action is absolutely unrelenting and never stops, and it will come back right after these highlights from the previous game. Stay with us.